All right, so on these problems, we're looking at changing from degrees to radians, and then we'll find the degree measure given that we have radians, so radians to degrees. So remember that when you're changing from degrees to radians, you are changing the measurement. So if we are given 64 degrees, we need to cancel out degrees and go to radians. And you're going to multiply by something that is equivalent, just as you would if you were doing inches or feet and so forth. So we need to get rid of degrees, so we know we've got to have a degree on the bottom, and that's going to be 180 degrees, and we're going to have the pi on top. Another way to look at this is when you're trying to find radians, you want the pi included. When you're trying to find degrees, you want to get rid of the pi. So our degree will cancel, and we end up with 64 pi over 180. But we need to reduce it always. They're both even, so we could divide both by 2, and we end up with 32 pi over 90. They're both still even, so dividing them both by 2 again, we get 16 pi over 45, and this will be radians. Now on the next part, we're looking at a degree measure that we want to find given that we have a radian measure. So we have our 19 pi over 18, which is in radians, but we want degrees to come into our angle here. So we want the degrees on top. Remember that the 180 is the degree measure, so we want that increment there. And we're going to put it over our pi, and the pi's will then be able to cancel. Remember that 180 degrees is the same thing as pi, so that's why they end up being over, it's like multiplying by 1. So our pi's will cancel, and I know that 18 will go into 180 10 times, so we will end up with 10, because we could cancel this 18 into 180 and end up with 10. So we'll get 19 times 10, which is 190 degrees. And that's all that you need to remember is it pi over 180 or 180 over pi, depending on whether you want to change it from degrees to radians or radians to degrees.